新英格兰国际教育源自美国，照耀全球。
respiratory system.
Yeah.
So it's mainly about gas exchange. By the way, have you learned about this already?
Yeah.
So what kind of knowledge have you already learned?
It's my most recent. No, it wasn't. That was blood capillaries. So you have lungs, heart between the lungs, intercostal muscles between the ribs, diaphragm below your lungs. I think it expands.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. Contracts when you're breathing in. When you breathe in, the everything basically expands, so there's more area and what's a concentration gradient for diffusion of air to breathe. Right, you have the trachea, which has like epithelial cells lining tissue. I'm not sure. Goblet cells, which secrete mucus in case, I don't know, some like food maybe gets in your trachea, so it wafts the mucus upwards and then hopefully takes the food away. Oh yeah, it's connected to the epiglottis. The trachea expands into two bronchus, which turn into numerous bronchioles. Each bronchiole, which has alveoli, the alveoli have like a thin wall, one layer thin. I'm not meant to say cell wall. One layer of cells as a wall, so lower diffusion area, while the capillaries like go around the alveoli. It's not really related to this. I mean, it is, but the what else? I think I need to know the what happens when you're breathing in and when it goes out. But I don't quite remember that. Brief overview, I guess.
Mm-hmm. My God, that's amazing. So just quickly go through it as a revision. Firstly, for the adaptations for gas exchange, we've also mentioned in the previous section. So firstly, we need large surface area for diffusion, thin walls for shortened diffusion distance, and good ventilation with air to maintain the concentration gradient, as well as a good blood supply to maintain the gradient. How about this question?
Large surface area, thin skin.
Mm-hmm. So what are the benefits?
Large surface area, so high rate of diffusion. Thin skin means, well, I don't know, less space. Also high rate of diffusion. Less space for air to travel through, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So just larger surface area and shorter diffusion distance, right?
Yeah.
And then here's the structure. But since you have already learned about it, basically the air comes from our nose, so it's called nasal cavity, and then move down into the trachea. And then the trachea is divided into two bronchus. And each bronchus is also divided into several bronchiole. And at the end of the bronchiole, it will be alveoli. And some other structures we have already talked about: the intercostal muscle between ribs, the diaphragm, and the lungs. So we'll just move on.
The pleural cavity. What was it for?
Pleural cavity is like the structure for your lungs, and since it's basically filled with fluid, so it can kind of like a protection.
From friction or what?
Pardon?
Okay. Yeah.
So it can also allow the contraction and relaxation of your lungs. So to change the volume of your lungs in order to help you breathing in and out. And the process of inhalation and exhalation will also be talked at the end of this chapter. So here are the structures of them. The function for ribs are to protect the lungs. And also, since ribs can move, it will also help to change the volume of your lungs. And then is intercostal muscle. It's the smooth muscle between ribs, so it can control movement, also allowing the change of volume. And then diaphragm. Diaphragm can also change the volume by changing the shape of diaphragm, such as from dome-shaped into a more linear one. And finally, the trachea, just a pathway for the gas from your nasal cavity to reach the lungs. Is it clear?
Yeah.
And then the bronchus and bronchiole are also the pathway for the gas. So we say, in this respiratory system, in which structure do gas exchange occur? In the system, in which structure do gas exchange actually occur?
Alveoli.
Very good. So only in alveoli, the gas are changing from between the lungs and the blood, and the rest of the structures are only providing pathway. And how about this diagram for the structures?
A seems correct.
That's good. So the structure here is called larynx. And then we're going to talk about the function and adaptations for each of the structure. Nose has three main functions: to warm, moist, and filter the air that you breathe in. So by warming it, it's caused by the good capillary supply, because the blood is warm, and to provide heat in order to warm your air. So if the air is not warm, the cold air reaching the lungs can cause some damage into your internal organs and also make you feel ill. And then it's about moist, of course, caused by the mucus. And the final one is filtering, caused by the nasal hairs. So it can just block the bacteria or pathogens away, avoiding them to reach your gas exchange system. And the structures are really simple. Besides the nasal hairs to trap the particles, you also have terminal bones to support your whole nose. And then after passing through your nasal cavity, you will reach the larynx, which is just shown on the diagram. It's called the voice box. It's where we can talk and we can make sound. So the basic principle of it is it contains vocal cord. It's like a string. So after air moving through our larynx, it will cause vibration of our vocal cord. So if you put your hand on your larynx, you can feel this kind of vibration. And then we say it's tightened by muscle. So then when air passes over, it can make sounds. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And here's about more specific structure of trachea. Well, we say trachea contains cartilage, and it's kind of bones that support our trachea. And although both in trachea and bronchus we contain cartilage. However, the shape of the cartilage are slightly different. So for the trachea, we describe it as C-shaped. As you can see from this graph, it's like this shaped. So it's not a circle of the cartilage, but just like a part of it. And then the main function is firstly to keep the lumen of trachea open. So if you don't have this kind of cartilage, your trachea may collapse, and thus blocking your air pathway. And another structure function is to allow expansion of esophagus. And then it also contain goblet cell and cilia. And these two kind of structure are usually tested together. So if the question asks you about the function of goblet cell and cilia, it's usually about 3 to 4 marks. The first one you should answer is that goblet cell will secrete mucus to trap bacteria and dust. And then the second mark will be awarded for the sentence that cilia is constantly sweeping and beating. So the third mark will be the cilia can then wave the mucus up to the back of your throat, enabling the mucus to be secreted out of the airway. Is it clear? You have to memorize these 3 points.
Yeah.
And then it's about bronchus. We say for bronchus, the cartilage is in the state of plates. So as you can see here, it's not a complete structure. And then for bronchus, although it has cilia, it doesn't have goblet cells anymore. However, it contains elastic fiber, allowing it to slightly expand a little. And then for bronchus, it has goblet cell. However, for bronchioles, there's no goblet cell, but just cilia. But for bronchioles, it also has smooth muscle tissue, so it can contract and dilate to help the gas passing through. Is it clear?
Cilia. Are they the hoe?
Pardon?
What are cilia?
Cilia are like the hair-like structure on the surface. Let me give you an example. Like
So,
it's the cilia. It looks quite similar to microvilli.
yeah.
So what's your question again?
That's it.
Okay. And after talking about bronchus, bronchiole, we'll just move on to alveoli. And here's structure for it. So from bronchiole, the space between bronchiole and alveolus will be alveolar duct, connecting these two structures together. And then, like the small circles in the alveolus are called alveolar sac. And also surrounding the alveolus, there will be lots of capillary in order to support it with a good blood supply. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So here are the adaptations, and it's quite similar to the adaptation of the exchange surface that we just talked before. We say that the lungs have lots of alveoli, so this large number provides a large surface area for the gas exchange. And also, as you have mentioned, it's only one cell thick. so shorten the distance of diffusion. And then it's associated with lots of capillaries, also one cell thick. So just maintain a really high concentration gradient and a good supply of oxygen to be transported into the blood. And we say that the oxygenated blood can be quickly carried away. So it's like the blood is giving carbon dioxide to the alveoli, and alveoli are returning oxygen into the blood. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So here is the process of gas diffusion between alveoli and the blood. We say that the membrane surrounding alveoli is called alveolar membrane. And then oxygen will move from the alveoli into the blood down a concentration gradient. And then the oxygen will diffuse into the red blood cell, as we have mentioned before, because red blood cell contain hemoglobin, which will then combine with oxygen and carry oxygen to the rest of our body. And then the carbon dioxide in the blood plasma will diffuse into the alveoli, also down a concentration gradient. Is it clear?
Yeah.
How about this
Uh, D. Suitable for mammals.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, it doesn't need to differentiate between mammals and other animals, because all the animals will require the same characteristic of gas exchange surface, both a dense blood supply and also large surface area. How about this one?
Moving mucus.
Very good. Yep. Then how about the structure of this cell?
Secreting mucus and trapping bacteria, if I was to choose from the 4 options.
Yep. So if you're choosing from these 4 statements, which one would you choose?
Trapping bacteria.
Yep. Very good. And how about the alveoli?
From the pulmonary artery. D.
Very good. And why is that?
Well, the CO2 accumulated from the cells hasn't had the chance to diffuse outwards into the alveoli yet.
And then we just move on to the differences between inspired air and expired air. So, of course, we say that there's differences between the oxygen and carbon dioxide concentration. And you need to memorize this statistic. Oxygen changes from 21 to 16, and carbon dioxide changes from 0.04 to 4. And then we say nitrogen is not used in our human body. So when we're breathing in and breathing out, the concentration remains constant. And then apart from these 3, can you think about any other differences between inspired air and expired?
Sure.
Think about the product of respiration.
Supposedly carbon dioxide.
Mm-hmm. How about besides carbon dioxide?
So respiration, aerobic respiration uses oxygen, uses carbon dioxide as a product, I think, which then is expired in higher quantities, something.
Mm-hmm. But actually, we have two products for respiration, right?
Carbon dioxide and water.
Yeah. So it should be water, right? And do you think the water concentration will be higher in inspired or expired air?
Higher expired.
Yeah. And because it's released from respiration, right? And then another one is called temperature. So you can just put your hands in front of your nose, and when you breathe in and breathe out, you can feel the differences of the temperature. So do you think the temperature will be higher in inspired or expired?
Higher and expired.
Yep. So still lower and higher. And here are the 5 differences for inspired and expired air. Well,
Yeah.
and by the way, why do you think the temperature will be higher in expired air?
Higher body temperature goes through the blood vessels, which are temperature of what? The just expired air. Body temperature higher than room temperature.
Very good. So the air will be first warmed up in our body, right?
Yeah.
How about this question?
This looks will it be R and S, right? Because the nitrogen.
So which one do you choose?
R, D.
S and R. Yeah, but how about the oxygen concentration and carbon dioxide concentration?
No, A.
Yes. So why did you choose it?
Oxygen is less when expired, and that can be seen. in S where it's less than R.
Very good. And then
carbon dioxide is more.
Yep. The nitrogen remain constant, right?
Yeah.
And then we're going to talk about the process of breathing in and out. So still let's move back to the structure part. As we mentioned, the volume of the lungs can be changed. So in order to breathe in, do you think the volume should increase or decrease?
Increase.
And why is that?
So there's more space for the same amount of air or concentration. Creates a concentration gradient on the air outside. Or there's some word of pressure. That's pressure inside. So the air can, diffuse inwards more efficiently.
Yep.
Don't even know what pressure or something.
So the main point is pressure. A larger volume will decrease the pressure. So here we're creating a pressure gradient instead of concentration gradient. When the pressure in our lungs are lower than the atmospheric pressure, the air can move in. Does it make sense?
I've been confusing pressure with diffusion because they feel so similar.
Well, yeah, they feel similar, but because diffusion, we're actually talking about a specific substance. We're comparing the concentration of this substance. However, for air, it contains lots of substances like oxygen, carbon dioxide. So it's hard to say whether the concentration will be higher in the atmosphere or in our lungs.
Yeah.
And then, if you want to increase the volume of lungs, what action will our body structure take?
Diaphragm flattens or contracts. That's what I really remember. Lungs expand. Something goes up and outwards. Yeah, I don't remember.
So you can just imagine that if your lungs want to expand, but the ribs are constricting its movement, so what should the rib do?
Go to the sides.
Yeah. It will move outwards, and also the diaphragm will flatten, as you have mentioned. So we say when we are breathing in, however, in order for the rib to move outwards, like move up and out, your intercostal muscle will also take action. And for the intercostal muscle, we're dividing it into internal ones and external ones. And actually, the true movement is caused by the internal one. And for breathing in, you can imagine that if the ribs want to move out, and the volume will increase. So the internal intercostal muscle will relax. Because if the internal muscle still contract, then the volume will get smaller. And then we say if the internal relax and external contract, Which adjective do you use to describe it?
That sounds antagonistic.
Very good. So for the intercostal muscle, they're still antagonistic, and the internal and external are acting in the opposite ways. And then, after the internal intercostal muscle relax, the rib will move both up and out. And then the diaphragm will contract and flattens, enabling the volume of our lungs to increase. And therefore, pressure decreases, air is drawn in. So when you are answering this type of question in the exam, you must make sure you have written down all the keywords here. And normally it will be around 4 marks for this kind of question.
Yeah.
Then how about the process for breathing out?
I think it'd be the opposite. So, intercostal muscles, the internal ones contract, the external ones react. The diaphragm would turn down and relax. The what's it called? The ribs go in and downwards. There's like 2 more points, or 3 more actually. Don't know.
How about the volume?
Volume decreases.
And then?
Pressure decreases. I don't know.
To pressure decrease, think about the direction of air movement.
When you're breathing outwards. Does pressure not decrease?
Pressure should be increased, right?
Oh.
Because the air is moving from
less volume.
Yeah. And how
Makes
about
sense.
will external muscle contract or relax?
The external insert. I think I said that it's relaxes. No. Breathing in or out? Out. When you're breathing out, it relaxes.
Really?
No?
Because for breathing in, the external one contract, right? You can imagine that the actual volume of the lungs are controlled by the internal ones. So, for example, we have a balloon here, and you just imagine the surface as the internal intercostal muscle. If this one contract, then the volume will get smaller. So, in order for the volume to get larger, the muscle should relax, and it's quite similar to the peristalsis of esophagus.
Okay.
When the outer layer relax, the volume can be larger. So, for breathing out, the external one should relax, internal one contract. And then we move down and in, you're correct. Diaphragm relax and become dome-shaped, also correct. And volume decreases, pressure increases. So by here, what actually means the pressure gets larger than the atmospheric pressure. So the air can move from higher pressure to lower pressure. And the final point will be air is forced out. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
How about this question?
Uh, volume decreases.
Mm-hmm.
Which means pressure increases.
Very good.
You got C.
So is it breathing in or out? I mean, is it breathing
Out.
Yep, very good.
New England Education. Dream big and make it happen.